Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Haribol. So, earlier Ivish was speaking about, in New Year, everybody's looking for the fresh start. And it was kind of interesting in the Herald, they published some of the latest research, gotta have research, on the subject. And they found that quite astonishing, I don't know about you guys, 40% of Kiwis make New Year resolutions. You think that's kind of a lot or not? That was more than I expected. I guess the second part of that was like super interesting. They found that the more optimistic a person was, the more likely they were to make a New Year's resolution. And how does that go together? It's generally because the idea of making New Year's resolutions, whatever they might be, is fundamentally, it contains a couple of ideas. One is, I think my life can be better. And more often than not, it includes the idea that I think I can do better. That's generally what the components are in this sort of thinking. And so, of course, that ties in with optimism. I mean, you have to be a little bit optimistic to think that things can get better. And you have to be optimistic to think I can do better. Because when you start heading in the other end of that spectrum, of thinking that it can't get any better and I can't do any better, then you're in the world of being very depressed. And it's sort of like you don't think that there is hope, or you don't think that it's possible for you. And so there is a need for at least an element of optimism to think that things can get better in general, my life can get better, and that I can do better. So that kind of considering how massive the problem is here and around the world, particularly the developed world, with the growth in depression and the growth in struggles with different types of mental illness, and New Zealand being one of the world's leading countries for suicide, particularly youth suicide. It's kind of like, I'm kind of really happy that at least 40% of the people make New Year's resolutions, because it's definitely a significant step in the right direction. I think one of the biggest problems with social media and the current world in which we live, we've been made to feel powerless, that we are dependent upon the approval of others, the endorsement of others. I feel like I have to buy certain things or go to certain places and things in order to be accepted, to be approved. And if I'm not doing that stuff, I'm going to be a monumental loser. Might even get bullied. And that's kind of like, this is a pretty crappy place to be. This doesn't bode well for the health and happiness of people in general when we become so dependent on all these things that are out of our control. I mean, other people's opinions and what they think is cool and what they think you should be doing with your life and what's acceptable and what's really happening. If you're dependent upon their opinions, you've already lost control of your life. And now you're running after other people's dreams and other people's fantasies and other people's ideas. The idea of a fresh start, really, it speaks to the need for resilience, the need to be a little bit grounded. And the more in touch a person is with a higher spiritual truth, the more inclined someone is to not only recognize, but to really embrace their, as Bob Dylan sang, "There must be some way out of here," said the drummer to the thief. There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief. Give me a guitar, somebody. That's become, the way many people are living. Spiritual life, the development, the cultivation of a spiritual life is really a declaration of wanting to be genuinely independent. Not the kind of person, I think I can make up my own mind. Yeah, but my mind's been controlled by so many other people. My mind's been controlled by desires placed in there by, outside forces, as it were. It is a declaration of independence that I'm going to really start this journey, a journey of real self-discovery, a journey of really learning to take care of myself. One of the most encouraging aspects of the spiritual journey is when there is a growing realization and a growing understanding that I, as the Atma, the self, the actual spiritual being residing within the body, I am already perfect. My body is not. My mind is not. Those are material things. Those are material coverings. And this is why it's such a bummer when we become so hung up on and beholden to what others think. We live up to their standards, their fantasies, their ideas of perfection. This declaration of independence that's necessary in order to really cultivate a spiritual life is really founded on this, acknowledgement. I am an eternal spiritual being. We are all equal. There is no higher and there is no lower amongst all the jivas. We are all on a level playing field. But once I begin assuming this body that I'm wearing around is me, oh my God, that opens up a whole world of hurt. A whole world of hurt. Because that journey never ends well. The body comes into existence, it's born, it goes through a period of growth, it reaches a bit of a peak, and then it maintains that situation for some time, and then it goes into decline. And the period that you spend in decline, it far outstrips the period of youthfulness. And we want to cling to that, Can't we just go back there? Can't I buy something? Can't I stuff something into the body? Can't I rearrange it somehow to sort of like cling back to that youthfulness? If you could really deeply appreciate, begin to have an awakening to your true spiritual identity, what a relief. What a move and focus away from all that which is filled with anxiety and fearfulness to realizing, hey, there's nothing to be an anxiety about. There's nothing to be actually fearful about. The world has this nature, the up, down. That's part of the nature. Me, I'm eternal. I'm still moving on the same level, on the same plane. So the more a person actually begins the process of spiritual cultivation, the more optimistic people begin to feel. And that optimism is not false optimism, where I'm hoping against hope. If only my life would be so perfect. If only I could find the perfect person to love. If only I could, looking for material things to fill actually spiritual needs. That's a world of anxiousness. Part of the reality that is attached to this spiritual process is the recognition, yes, the cultivation of spiritual life is a journey. We are moving from one extreme almost to another. One extreme of being totally immersed in the false idea that the body is the self, that this world can be my home, that I can live happily ever after. No, you can't. That's not going to happen. And the other, if I can say extreme, the other end of the spectrum is to be fully freed from all anxiousness, from all fear. The greatest fear that you become free from is the recognition that you can't die. You can't. You don't die. The body dies. When you leave, the body dies, but you don't die. You are eternal. You can't die. It's impossible. All other fears are built upon that foundational fear that sort of like stalks us and haunts us. The old cartoons of the Grim Reaper, this shadowy dude with the black hood and the cape and the scythe. That's kind of like for real. That thing, that idea, that reality is stalking everybody. But for one who has come to the spiritual platform, there is no existence of the Grim Reaper. Because I am eternal. I'm an eternal spiritual being. Recognizing that and recognizing that my spiritual nature is filled with perfection, then we're faced with this other reality. Yeah, but I'm here now, and I do have this body, and I have been living a thoroughly materially oriented life, and I'm trying on this journey, but sometimes I stumble, sometimes I encounter difficulty, sometimes the going gets really tough. But if I fall over, because I know that I am an eternal and perfect spiritual being. This is a process of uncovering something that is already there. If I just gravitate towards the idea of me being a total crap out or a partial crap out, and my life's a big struggle and it's all difficult, and if I identify with that, then it seems hopeless. When I realize, oh, I've fallen into this kind of situation again, and it may be an abyss, it may be a deep dark hole, but when I have the realization, but this is not the eternal me, this is not the real me, this is something I'm dealing with. And then it's kind of like, okay, there is a way out of this. There is a process, and this is what the process of meditation is all about. There are two things that are really important. One is to develop a personal practice of meditation. In that personal practice of meditation, it's just like when when it starts getting really cold, and then you step out into the sun and sit in the sun, and you feel the warmth of the rays, and it changes everything. It changes your mood and everything. This is what we are doing in the meditation process. We are placing ourselves, just like, you see in like the holy Ganga and the Ganges River, and you see people going to bathe, and they stand usually waist deep, and then they'll, offer their respects to the sun and to the water, offer water to the Ganga, and then they immerse themselves in water. They go under and they are taking a bath. This is really how, if we're going to visualize anything, this is what we are doing when we engage in the meditation process, when we place ourselves in the proximity of this spiritual sound. We are in the presence of that which is all purifying, which is filled with transcendental blissfulness. The highest states of spiritual love or prema are all manifest or all reside within this transcendental sound. So when I take my body and my mind, which may be feeling really crappy, and I may have fallen over, or I may be having struggles, and I sit and I place myself, I immerse myself, it will have a transcendental effect of lifting that load, of purifying the heart and purifying the mind. So a regular practice is critical. If you want to succeed, if you want to become increasingly optimistic, if you want to live a really good life, you need to develop a daily practice. And then the second thing that's really important is to take time to cultivate association with those who are on a spiritual path, and preferably those who are more spiritually advanced than myself. Because in that company, in that sangha, in that association, I become constantly reminded of that which is eternal, that which is good, that which is pure, that which I am meant to be. And I become encouraged when I see other people going through change and transforming. It's like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I may think, how am I going to do it? Well, you don't have to worry. It's not about you. It's about putting yourself within the proximity of that which is transcendental, that which is spiritual. And one becomes enlivened. We become enthused. We become increasingly optimistic. We become increasingly able to bear the burden of this life. It is a burden. It's not a joke. Today we were just sending a greeting to my wife's mother. In a few days it'll be her 90th birthday. And she's been an incredibly active person. She had like 10 children, She was like a major political figure. She was active in the Catholic Church, always running all these programs. I mean, she was non-stop on the move. But I tell you what, you get to a point when your body ages so much, you're running out of gas big time and constantly plagued with difficulty and stuff that comes automatically to the body. But when one is cultivating spiritual knowledge and understanding, all of this is kind of like pretty insignificant, just something that you deal with. But it doesn't affect you. It doesn't change the way that you feel about things. So, you know, this time of year when people make New Year's resolutions, it's good to make resolutions, to become resolved, to try and do something about improving my life and improving myself. Improving myself actually means uncovering my truest spiritual nature. And on that journey, yes, we will stumble. We will encounter difficulty. It's okay, don't panic. It's cool. Everything's fine. When you fall over, you pick yourself up and dust yourself off and continue the journey, remaining optimistic in spite of our frailties, in spite of our difficulties, sometimes our shortcomings. So the idea of a fresh start is fundamentally a spiritual idea. It may get misused in terms of directed towards that which is temporary and material, but at its heart, it is fundamentally a spiritual idea, and it's fundamentally a spiritual ideal. And so I really encourage you all to think about that and to adopt that increasingly in your own life. Okay, all good? Thank you very, very much. It'll take too much. I was going to say we'll sing the Om Hari Om mantra. Another time we'll talk a little bit more deeply about the actual meaning of this Omkara, Pranab Omkara, as it is explained by Patanjali and others. But the name, the spiritual name Hari, is extraordinarily wonderful and inviting. In this name, it indicates to lift the great burden of the heart and the mind, the one who takes away this burden. And so when we chant this mantra, and we're a little bit cognizant of this, it can be a very prayerful thing, where we are asking that this burden that comes with material existence be lifted from our heart and our mind, that we may have true and transcendental realization of my own true spiritual self and also of the Supreme Soul.